All right. We are back.
We're back.
Episode 14.
And you know what we're doing this time? We're finally just going to be just Eric and Tony. No
Just
guests.
the Eric and Tony show.
What the people wanted. Just us two.
Just bringing it back to the basics, people.
This all started like in our living room, 16 years ago? Right? How long did we move out here?
Yeah, it's coming up on 17 years, I think.
We used to share a couch, not unlike this one.
Yeah.
And conversations not unlike the one we're about to have. Because there's some shit in the news we want to talk about. Eric? Aliens, you guys. They're fucking real.
UFOs.
They finally came out. UFOs are finally being acknowledged for their existence and stuff. And Eric and I have smoked many of a weed and spent many nights talking about the, pyramids and all that kind of shit that doesn't make any sense. And then aliens, potentials, all that stuff. And finally they said they actually exist. What I want to know is, when are they going to start rewriting history books? Do you know what I mean?
So, did you watch any of that trial?
What do you want to do the Trump thing right now?
No, the trial. I'm talking about the UFOs, dumbass.
Yeah.
So the trial, the UFO trial.
Yes.
There was a whole trial for it. Did you watch any of that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the whole thing about that, it's still witness, there's no evidence of it. There's no proof of it. That was the takeaway that I got. And I am all for aliens. I think that they're more than likely out there. But again, there's still no physical evidence. They don't have anything that they can they didn't bring anything to that meeting and be like, look at this. This is, bam, we don't know what this is. Yeah. Bam, this is some material we don't have. We didn't create it, or anything, a fucking alien toothbrush, nothing. And everything was hearsay, or it was it was told to me by a person that saw it. It was secondhand kind of stuff.
Well, because they killed all the people that saw the shit for real. There was that part in that same trial thing. The guy's like, have you known about people that have been murdered or been threatened by the government and stuff like that? And he's just yeah, myself included. Not that he's got murdered, but I mean, do you hear about that shit all the time? It's this guy who's was going to go do an expose, him and his entire family get hit by a train with all their documents and stuff go missing. And just that happens all the time.
You do hear it all the time, but again, there needs to be factual evidence in order to prove it. One of my favorite people to watch is Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah. I
admire that guy so much. I think he's the coolest fucking dude. And he has a very similar idea as far as aliens and stuff. He gets asked the question all the time on any podcast he does and all this stuff. And he's always it's out there. They could be out there, but as far as the evidence and proof that we have, it's not enough for if they were doing a scientific test or review, there's not enough information to prove that it actually is there. So it's still he says bring me something, bring me anything from a UFO, bring me, actual physical evidence that we can test and actually do a scientific test on it to prove that this is something that we didn't create and we don't know about, not hearsay. Or someone else is oh, I was there. And then that's the other thing too that he brings up quite a bit, is that people are the worst witnesses. People see shit all the time, or oh my God, I saw something. I saw a ghost. I saw, ghost.
Yeah.
It's all this, people are the dumbest fucking source of finding evidence.
Well, when you see the video of it's a fighter jet and they have the little blurb on there, and all of a sudden starts doing crazy ass shit that no actual plane can do, that's literally out of the physics of our actual vehicles and stuff, then it's not dust either. It's something that's being controlled. That kind of shit fascinates me. To capture one, that's a whole other thing.
Well, it's another argument that he says is okay, well, they're using a device in order to see that device. So there's a buffer between what they're seeing and they're seeing it on a radar. They're not seeing it some of them have seen it, they say, with their own eyes. But then again, it's a human, experience, and them dictating what they're seeing and interpreting it in a certain way. Same thing with that radar, that it's a machine. It's a mechanical machine that is seeing something that it doesn't know and is just tracking it. So it could be like a glitch, or it could be just an anomaly, or it could be something with like the sun like reflecting in like the lens that just makes this thing that looks like a certain thing.
Weather balloon.
Yeah. It's just something that isn't like, it's not, they're not able to scientifically test and prove that it is what they say it is. And to jump to the conclusion that it's aliens is kind of like a pretty extraordinary claim, and you need pretty extraordinary evidence.
Be aliens. That's the other thing too. Is like the fact that everyone's kind of on the alien thing. I would love for that to be happening. I would love for some kind of alien to come down and just fuck up our whole shit.
I'm right there with you. Take me away, beam me up.
Let
whatever
me see
the fuck.
some fucking planets. But just UFOs in general, they don't have to be extraterrestrial. They could just be shadow government stuff, huh? Just like some crazy, like be. Stark Enterprise type technology that's hidden, hidden technology, suppressed technology and stuff. But like those vehicles and stuff, and that's the other thing too, is like once you start telling the public, like, yeah, we've seen some, UFOs and we've kept it from you, and then that makes you start to wonder, like, what else are you keeping from us?
Well, that's what a lot of that hearing was. It was about the transparency. It's like like all those guys testified under oath and said like they saw what they saw and they reported it, and that there wasn't any kind of formal way to report any of these things, whether they're UAPs, right? What is that?
I don't know. It's a new name for saying UFO.
Unidentified aerial phenomenon is what UAP stands for. So they don't have a way to report those things without being like kind of shunned or banned or looked down upon within commercial flight pilots. Like they just see that shit, or if they see something, they're just like, I just don't know what it is. I'm not going to report it, because then other pilots or the company will be like,
oh, Johnson over here, the fucking UFO guy.
They become like the wacko guy. And the same thing is in the military, where like they the one guy that saw the Tic Tac thing, he reported it and he was like, yeah, like nothing ever happened. I told my superiors and reported it, and then they didn't even follow up. They're just like, all right, whatever.
Did you a favor? I flushed a report down the toilet.
Yeah, they just like whatever, like they just like blew it off. And he's like, this is shit that they're seeing on a consistent basis, like all the time, and there's just no like place to report it where like it actually gets like heard about, or there's no transparency within it. If it does, it gets like, filed down or like locked away, or like they don't talk about it. So that's what the majority of their hearing was about, is having a sort of transparency for people that do experience those kind of things or witness things, a way to report it without being like ridiculed for it.
Yeah.
So I thought it was kind of interesting. I did watch the whole thing, and it was still, again, extraordinary claims, but you need extraordinary evidence. You need, like more than just one fuzzy video. And then another thing too, Neil deGrasse Tyson always mentions, he's like, there's like how many people on the planet? Like 30 billion people or something like that, like some incredible amount of people. And like more than half of them have cell phones that have cameras. And then on top of that, like
it's almost 9 billion people.
9 billion. Okay. 9 billion people. So say only half of those look so like 7, what is that? 4.5. This is math. I did math.
4.5 billion.
I did some math. Say like half of the people have, cell phones, then that's on the ground. Then in the sky, how many planes are flying constantly?
Plus surveillance cameras and shit.
Yeah, like the amount of planes that are in the sky on a daily basis, I forget the number, but it's some extraordinary number. Like thousands of planes are constantly in the sky. People have cell phones on there too with cameras. They don't have to have like, Wi-Fi to video something. Like, and nothing is ever like seen or caught on tape.
Bro. It's just like a cloaking camouflage thing. Again, I don't necessarily think that it has to be. I don't know. I also think there could be like disturbance and like anomalies and shit. Like you see that in like horror movies. Like they get in the camera, also they get staticky. It's like right when they're in that frame. I don't know. I just think there's definitely some potential there. I never like to say no to anything, but I like the fact they're finally saying like there are some fucking UFOs, we don't know what they are, instead of being like, that's a fucking kid with a 2 paper plates taped together and shit, or like the weather balloon shit. We're just like, all right, let's all admit that no one knows how the fuck that thing, because there's some shit you'll hear, like there was like he's either Japanese or Chinese airline pilot that was flying, and then he's like radioing, he's like, do you see this? In this fucking thing like miles wide just flies over his plane, just like this giant ass fucking
I think I
big
saw,
airship, like a aircraft carrier in the sky flying above him. And he's like, does anyone see this? Like, what the fuck is this? And they're just like, could you imagine that? Like, again, too, whether it's human driven or like alien driven or fucking time, whatever it is, that would be fucking like just a frightening, overwhelmingly large thing to just see in the sky above you and just like then care about but you never, I don't know, you never shake that.
But again, kind of like the same thing with like the gaps of the God kind of thing with religion. Like religion will just fill in God for information they don't know.
Yeah.
And I feel people do that too with aliens. They're like, we don't know what that is. It's aliens. It's like, okay, well, let's, I believe like, you know, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in like a man that lives in the sky. Mostly what atheists believe is that they don't know. And that's it. That's all that they claim. They don't claim anything else. They just claim we don't know. And religion claims that they do know. But it's like, okay, well, what's your proof? What's your evidence? It's an extraordinary claim. You don't have the extraordinary evidence. So why do you so strongly feel that way? And the same thing with aliens. Like, I don't know. I would love for there to be like aliens. And I think that it's possible with the vastness of the universe, and it's constantly expanding.
Dude, I don't like, again, too, like I'm not like have some shrine of like, you know, green aliens. I just like to like most things that come across my desk as far as like conspiracy theories and shit. I'm like, oh, okay. If it actually happens to be true, I'm like, I'm not surprised. I read about that, but I'm not like, I read this one time. I know for certain that there's fucking aliens and there's USOs, that's underground submerged objects.
Yeah.
Right? Those are also crazy because that's like another crazy thing though too, dude, is like, I think the coolest stories of sightings are from like the reservations and shit. You know what I mean? Like the Hopi Indian tribes, all those people that like, they have zero technology and then they see some shit pop out of the lake. And it's like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Like some, you know, glowing orb pop out and shit. And like, it's not gas escaping and shit.
Well, then again, though, too, very primitive people that don't understand like technology, or this is even the sightings or cultures that are like developed upon those things. You know, like they have indigenous cultures that are in like remote islands that have never seen planes before, and they have like whole religions based around like commercial planes that fly over like every other week, and they're like, it's the, you know, whatever, the plane god thing, whatever. They have no idea what it is. So it's like not understanding of what something is and then jumping to a conclusion of like
too, could be
a
the
god
same thing.
or like some magical thing when it actually has a reason, a purpose, and like, you know, how it was built and made. Same thing with the pyramids. You know, like we don't know how they were built. Like nobody really knows 100%. Like there was no tombs ever found.
Copper wire, and just brute force. Just put those things up there.
One determined son of a bitch just fucking chiseling granite. But like I was watching a documentary a couple weeks ago, and they were uncovering like ancient tombs, and man, there's this one that I watched. It was about this this species of human that it's the oldest, like before the
hominids.
Yeah. And it's in this cave, and I forget what the cave was, but it's the first evidence of like actual like human-like creatures making like burial places, carving like things on the wall, like before cavemen and all that shit. Dad. Yeah, like crazy shit. And like you see them like going through this super like weird cave, and it's like really tight to get through. And then there's like this cavern that's like it's massive, and then there's like this other little tunnel that goes down to a deeper spot, and then there's a burial site. And they're like, there's no way that you could just like, you know, like toss something in there, or like things fell in there. Like you'd have to carry something through these other chambers down this one super thin chamber with other people like, or things helping you to do it. And then there was an actual like squared out dug spot, and then they have evidence of prehistoric fire that they had in this cavern to show that because it's completely black. Like all these people had like light helmets on and stuff to like explore like cave hunters and all that, but like in order to even see anything, it's pitch black in there, so they'd have to have the use of fire in order to explore any of these places. And so they showed like evidence of those things in pieces, and like the first piece of like actual stone they used for like hunting and stuff, that one of the skeletons were buried in, and they had like 12 skeletons that were in this one spot and had like their fist clench with this stone device used. What like super primitive.
They weren't buried there, they're lured back like fucking E.T. with the like Reese's Pieces. They walked by there, then they got clubbed, and then they got put there. Huh?
Save it for the stage, Tony.
I'm just saying, that's the thing that was like all that kind of shit's always left for interpretation. You know what I mean? Like it's like the Little Mermaid, right? When they find the fucking fork, it's like, it's a dinglehopper. It's like, well, how the fuck do you know what it is? No one knows. It's always just trying to piece it back together again. That's why there was like so many, remember this even when we were kids in school, where they'd find dinosaur fossils and then I'd try to put them together. And then there's like some people that think that they're not even done right to begin with. Yeah. And there's crazy ass people that think the dinosaurs are fucking like just fake things hidden there by the devil.
Some people think that the dinosaurs are like fucking 2,000 years old and shit. Like they were like that.
Some people think that like
you ever watch that shit? Dude, that is a fucking crazy shit.
Bill Nye has that coolest fucking thing when he takes on that creationist down in like the Bible Belt. Yeah, which is fucking great.
Watch that last week. Thing is
that it's not just like him. There's other religions. Like there's a certain writing partner that I had, which name shall not be mentioned.
Yeah,
but I talked to her about that shit, and she's like, "Oh yeah, like." The planet's only like 5,000 years old. Like, if you don't think that like God could make this look like it was antiquated, like you look at how nice they dress up Hollywood movie sets. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what kind of elaborate hoax is this to do? Like, it's just like also the same person that thought that like, if you don't put one of those little things on your doorway, there's demons that live inside your walls and shit. And like Nazis wore shoes to hide their fucking hood feet. Because I was like, what the fuck? Like, all types of crazy shit.
It's like, I'm sick. It's this devil's in you, or like you got spells on you. It's like all that like super primitive, like ancient, like,
but then I was also part two,
understanding of like
who's to say it's not like that? I mean, again too, like I can't ever really rule anything out entirely. Some shit's just like a little far-fetched to believe, but you look at like people that think like this whole experience we're having is like the Matrix, right? And you're like, well, how the fuck could that be? And then you're like, well, why? I mean, could it be? I mean, I'm still waiting for me to just do something. All of a sudden it goes to a white room and I just see a bunch of like, assault rifles I can pick from, you know what I mean? Like, or weapons and shit. But then every now and again, I was at like 3rd Street Promenade a few months ago, and I was talking to a buddy, and we're smoking a joint and shit. And I don't know how the whole concept of like living in a matrix came to be, but there was this guy that was just stuck walking in the corner as like a unhoused homeless guy, and I was like, see, that's like some shit in like a video game when the starts glitching and shit.
Yeah,
I was like,
start like running.
Yeah, you're just like
in the corner and like shit.
Exactly. I was like, shit. This is like, is that kind of an inkling because it's like so real? You know, think about again, a stone thought, but. Nonetheless, there's like a lot of those interesting ways of thinking about the human experience that are the norm. You know what I mean? There
are, and a lot of them are disproven though. Like the whole like Noah's Ark and shit. Like I had a family member.
They found the Ark, buddy.
I had a family member whose name will remain that went to go see the recreation of Noah's Ark it's like in North Carolina or some shit. And I'm like, you went to that? And he's like, yeah, we went. I'm like,
why wouldn't you go?
Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck?
That's how we survive as a society.
I'm like, what? Like, how crazy? I actually was kind of jealous. I'm like, I would love to go there and just hear what they say.
Okay, here's the thing though. What if some guy did make a boat and then only like his neighborhood flooded? And he's like, I saved the planet. Then like he has to travel somewhere. Like, look at all these people that are still here because like one little pocket. You know what I mean? Like there is a potential that one fucking neighborhood flooded, everybody but this guy and his fucking boat died, and then like the rest of the planet was never affected by that. You know what I mean? Look at fucking like Hurricane Katrina, right? That shit goes on. You don't experience anything in the Pacific Northwest.
It could be. I mean, well, that's like the whole thing about like theology. It's like a story that was. It's like
the Creation Museum, hilarious.
Yeah, that shit's fucking hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. People pay money to go in there to have someone just lie bullshit to them and tell them a fucking fantasy
20 years
story.
ago when the planet was formed.
yeah. Where were you born? Like 80? Oh, yeah. Like 15 years before that.
Just before you were born, this planet was made.
Yeah, yeah, it's absolutely fucking nuts, man. But like, they say like, you know, like, yeah, tour every animal and all this shit, and it's like, explain that to me. Like, try to make that make sense to somebody. Yeah. Like, and then on top of that, when like Bill Nye goes there, he's like the whole time he just has this like, oh, okay, like, and then like just shoots it down with like science facts, and then his guy's like, well, no, like it's like an Australian guy that owns that thing, and he's like some pastor there, and just probably makes bank off all these people. Oh. Just
dumb people. Take my money. Yeah. Take it all.
Speaking of, I gotta
rewatch that Bill Nye thing, because he has like just watching him just shut down all the stupid theories is like, I liked him as a kid as far as like childhood scientist, but really seeing him fucking stick it to the crazy people.
Yeah, man. It's and those are all the people that like support Trump. All those people that are going down the fucking Noah's Ark shit are like, yeah, Trump's my savior, and we're fucking, it's the same thing. It's the same concept of like lying to people, just like no evidence is needed, no facts are needed. It's just stories. And as long as you just feed them stories and that they're willing to believe anything that you tell them.
The best is when they make that fan art of like Trump with like a Rambo body, and it's just like, what are you doing? Like, you are just like, that is so weird. Yeah. And like, that's your guy. And they still give him like the blush, the rosacea cheeks and shit. And like
yeah, man, that shit is absolutely crazy. That guy's got 4 indictments. He's got 2 more coming. He's got 97 felony counts on him right now. Looking at, I don't know how many hilarious. Like hundreds. Yeah. If for people at home,
don't worry, JC, I got this.
Yeah. Just fucking like, he was like, who's the dumbest people on the planet? Okay, religious people. They believe fucking the dumbest shit. Okay, I'm going to lean into them, and I'm going to fucking get all them. I'll do the same thing. I'll just tell them a bullshit story, and they'll believe it because they don't need evidence or proof to believe anything. They just go on faith. And he just fucking ran with that shit. And now we have a society that's in decline. And is torn down the middle between like people that are fact-based, science-based, and people that are faith-based who are just fucking crazy, basically. So it is absolutely insane. I watch that shit every day. I know you don't watch it that much. I'm obsessed with it. I think it's the best show on TV. It's watching the last season of America. Because if this shit doesn't...
Yeah, I mean, look, that's the thing is there is that... Okay, there's like... a couple reasons why I don't watch it. 1, it's depressing. 2, it's like I usually if I watch anything, it's like something to try to like with my kid, right? But there's the other part too, where there's like, as you know, this shit is on a decline. Like, it's sad, and I'd rather enjoy something more entertaining while it comes to this end where it's just like, yeah. Okay.
Well, but here's the thing: it doesn't have to. It's like, this is a pivotal point. It doesn't
have to. It's going to. This shit's all gonna just crash and burn.
This is a pivotal point, I think, for our entire country and for democracy in America. It really is, because you're not going against Republican, Democrat. There is no Republican Party anymore. It's a fascist cult meets idiocracy. It is just all bullshit, all fucking lies, all everything. It's all projection. And then you have another side that is actually stands for law and the order of law and the rules and you know, and how this country's been ran since it began. And if it's not even like for like, oh, so you like love Biden? No, if Biden had a fraction of any of the things that Trump has been charged with, I'd be like, yeah, no, I don't want to vote for him. I'll put someone else in there, get him out, let him, you know, go to court, put him in jail, put them all in jail, whatever. But it's not that right now. It's all this projection and saying, oh, well, Biden this and Hunter Biden that. Hunter Biden is a citizen. He's not running for president. And then on top of it, Trump is trying to run for president. He's not trying to run for presidency. He's trying to run so he doesn't go to jail, which he's going to go to jail. So it's you have one party that is just trying to follow the rule of law, and everything that they're bringing to him in order to get him indicted is fact-based. Yeah. And everything, that's why you don't see Joe Biden in jail. For even before he was elected, they were saying shit about him and Hunter Biden. And then all of the people that are putting Trump that are going to put Trump in jail are all Republicans. It's not like Democrats are coming in and saying like he did this and that's. It's all his own party and his own people that he elected in those positions that are saying he told me to lie, he told me to cheat, he told me to steal, he told me to do all this fucked up shit. I'm telling you right now, this is what he did. It's all Republicans. There's not one Democrat that is like, he did this to us. There's no incentive for any of them to call him out on his shit. The only reason they're doing it is because now they are one to be indicted themselves or like tell the truth.
So the mob, fucking,
it's totally mob. It's a mob mentality and
sing like a stool pigeon shit.
And that's I think the biggest difference where a lot of people on the right, I don't even call it a Republican Party anymore because I don't believe that it is. It's the people in the cult will just go with whatever is to their leader, their king or whatever, their chosen one, no matter what information they get. I watched this thing on Netflix a few days ago.
There is part of that on both sides of the aisle, though. That's the thing.
There is.
And the unfortunate thing is like people like myself and yourself like kind of get lumped in because I don't think that like, I just don't think we've had a good like candidate for like the Democrats. I like Bernie. They didn't give him a fucking fair shake. I don't really care for Biden. He is the lesser of two evils, but that doesn't mean he's a great option.
Of course
but, like,
not.
That's the thing. Is it's just like
horrible option. Yeah. There's a billion like the best two people.
Do you want to eat dinner or no? And it's just like, well, yeah, I gotta fucking eat something. You know what I mean? That is what Biden is.
But now it's not. It's not based on like better or like like who's the lesser evil. It's like either you have a democracy or you don't. You have a fascist dictator. Because if Trump gets reelected, he will do everything that he wasn't doing the first time around and have no shame. Where I think the first time he was like, I'm going to try to like bend the rules as much. And now he's like, if I get in, I'm never coming back out. I'm going to gut everything and put everybody in prison that was trying to fuck with me and just lock him up in the court system and just as much as he can. That guy will never, ever leave. I think it's like the biggest warning that we were lucky enough to have is get him out of the office and show like he showed himself. He showed his true colors. Granted, he's been doing that forever.
Reelected would be.
I think it's definitely possible. Yeah. I think the majority vote is not close, but again, our system is based off electorals, so it kind of gets skewed. So he lost the last election by 7 million votes. No Republican candidate has won in the last like fucking 12 years or something like that, or more than that. It's all the majority vote has always been Democrat. Even when Hillary Clinton lost, she won the majority vote by millions of votes. So I think that's a whole other thing that needs to get restructured and fixed. But it's just such a fucking pivotal moment in the country where that's why I'm obsessed with it. Cause I'm like, man, like this is like, we might not have a country anymore. And if that guy gets elected, I'm probably going to jail because he's gonna be like, hey, Eric's posting anti-Trump things, and there's gonna be like some weird like Trump Gestapo with fucking orange faces and blonde hair. Yeah, Trump Stapo and shit. And like that's what it's gonna be. Like my grandfather lived through that and he warned me about this now. And now I'm unfortunately seeing what could happen. And so I'm glued to it and I'm like very in on like what is going on. I recommend anybody wanting to get any factual, credible information on this, go to the Midas
Storm
Touch,
the Capitol.
Go to the Midas Touch Network. They are legal professionals, have been attorneys, are professors at Yale, at USC, been doing it for 30 plus years. Extremely, extremely credible, factual information. They are the best pro-democracy and most watched channel out of anything for democracy, for all the shit that's going on. They literally break down every legal argument, everything that's been filed, any kind of accusation. And I watch it and literally they'll be like, okay, and they literally break it down like they're like you're in a class, like you're in a law class. I'm not a fucking lawyer. I don't know what they're talking about. They break it down in like simplest form and say, this is what it is. This is the facts. Yeah. This is what's going to hold. This is what's going to happen. And man, like clockwork, they have done, I've been watching this for like 2 years and everything that they say will happen, it happens. They have not been wrong, like at all. Like, and I'm like, I don't know. I trust them. I don't watch CNN or MSNBC or any of that shit. Fox News isn't even a news thing. That's a fucking absolute joke. Or any other like mainstream news outlets. I literally watch my information on YouTube. It seems to be the most credible source if you want to actually get legitimate information on what's happening with current politics and stuff like that. Man, they are so spot on. I can't, say it enough. Midas Mighty.
I'm watching
what, Tony?
Unsolved Mysteries, Robert Stack, baby.
Ooh.
Reruns from the 80s. You talk about bringing yourself back to the childhood, man.
That is good.
It's good because they're still unsolved. And some of the shit, you're like, how have you not solved this yet? There's like minor DNA tests that could simply remedy the shit. And it's not just all murder mystery stuff, because I like watching that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But like there's a lot of like missing person stuff or like long lost siblings and shit. And what's crazy is like obviously on the same kind of passion and fire, talking about that as you, like, you gotta watch this. It's all gonna come. But like, there's like
save
this,
yourselves.
That's the only way.
You're gonna live in a fucking fascist.
Been watching it for years.
Yeah.
But that shit scared the fuck out of me when I was a kid. When it'd come on, and you're like, all right, well, it's time for you to go to bed, or otherwise I don't have nightmares. And then you run off and shit, do the whole hit the lights on the way back to the bedroom and shit. But now, as an adult watching it, 30 plus years, sometimes they'll have updates, and they'll have busted the guy. And or they'll find the person or whatever, but like sometimes they have like this like woman goes missing, and like the husband's just like, yeah, I don't know, like she just probably decided to leave, like she didn't really like her kids or any of her stuff, so she just left it all here and stuff. And it's like, psh, update, this guy did it. Fucking like just like literally got like, you came onto a fucking like national television show and we're trying to bullshit that whole thing, like just calm the fuck down. But like what I find to be the most crazy on those things, and I think that is like kind of, I guess, a good thing with modern society versus like back in the day, was a lot of like the women that were married to GIs that went to World War II, they would just like, if their husband died and then another guy would come back and they like fell in love, he's like, hey, I like you, but these kids, you got to get rid of them. They would just drop fucking kids off at orphanages. There's like tens of thousands of stories about this. When the woman would just fucking dump their kid off and go off with a new guy. And then there's these families like, yeah, well, I had like I had this one photo of me and my 5 siblings and shit. And then they fucking like go do a reunion and everyone's got mullets and shit. Like it was funny as fuck. It was like they found everybody like 30 years after their mom just dropped them all off at an orphanage and said like, good luck. And every one of them, they didn't like, they knew they had siblings, but they found them and shit. They all had like the same, like the inherited like mullet. It was just like, obviously you're my brother. And then one of them like lived in a close neighborhood and shit. Mm-hmm. And then they like had been to parties before and never realized they were brothers. I'm like, that's so fucking weird. That's just like happens out there. That just, people were like, yeah, this kid's not for me. I'm just gonna drop it off like a fucking rescue dog and go start anew.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of weird shit back in the day. Whole bunch of like goofy norms that like were just accepted, like smoking cigarettes in the house and fucking beating your wife and like fucking like
smoking cigarettes in the car with your kid, or like with like other people's kids. I used to take a carpool with like
no seatbelts. I don't even think they have fucking seatbelts until like the fucking what, like
they had seatbelts, but it wasn't like a required thing. And then there's like
seatbelts weren't until like the 60s. Like I don't think in the 50s they had seatbelts. They're just like, get in, like fucking like,
oh, would you want to be tethered to this car?
Yeah,
if you get in a car, you got to jump out. I
saw like some video where like some mom was like, yeah, like seatbelts, like I just don't have time for it. And it was something like recent. It was like not but like in like the 60s or something, like right when they came out,
and they were like, people were
like protesting it and shit.
But like the fact of like even smoking a cigarette around a kid, I don't smoke anymore, but like I would just feel like bad doing that around anyone's kid because I don't want to be a bad influence. But like I would take carpools to middle school and my friend's dad would drive and smoke cigarettes while, and I smoked at that time, but like he would smoke like several cigarettes on the way from like picking us up
in the car,
and you're like, and it was like winter time, so the window was barely cracked, and I'm just like, well, I'm just getting secondhand fucking smoke cancer and shit.
Yeah, but they don't know any better too. They're just like, well, it's just smoke, it's just cigarette.
It was accepted by society back then, but everyone knew. It still said on the pack of cigarettes like this causes cancer and shit. But everyone's like, well, if I don't, that means I have to drop my kid off at school. It's just like, well, I guess someone's getting cancer.
I think it's like a lot of those people that were doing that, like that's when those things came out and was like, this can cause cancer. And they're like, whatever. And then now it's like, it caused cancer. And now you're seeing the repercussions of all of that, like that, ignorance and not knowing what the actual effects are. There's like so many things in history like that. We're just like, oh yeah, it was like, it's not bad for you, like fucking lead paint and like all that shit, like, oh, it's paint double, put
Unsolved
another
Mysteries
coat on
again.
right now. That's a lead paint Unsolved Mystery.
There was a lead paint Unsolved Mysteries. There was like a little girl that like went like
the lead paint
like
Unsolved
brain
Mystery.
dead or something like that, and it was like they thought the mom was beating her up and shit. Turns out
she's like,
turns out she just
so good, Ma.
just fucking loved paint chips. Just fucking ate a shit ton of them and stuff. And they like, you know, she would just kind of hang out on the porch, and then they noticed there's like just a bunch of paint missing on the wall, and then she wouldn't be hungry for dinner and stuff. Just like barely remember her name anymore. She's like, well, what the fuck? They're just like, dude, the amount of shit that people got away with back in the day, you know, and then you could kind of argue like, I might be a helicopter parent or watch after my son a lot, but like when I go to the park with my kid, I'm on him like a fucking like just like a hawk. Like I don't leave my kid unattended with other kids and stuff, like, because that's the only kid I got, right? And if he goes missing or dies, I can't name my next kid Anthony Robert Klein III. Like he's just kind of can't have like a.
I feel like that like back in the 80s, like that was like the biggest fear as a kid of just getting snatched up by somebody.
Yeah.
I think that was happening like quite a bit. And then I feel now that maybe like it probably still happens a lot, but I feel not as much because of like all like cameras everywhere and like cell phones and tracking and all that kind of shit. Like it kind of like water that down. Like there's no more like faces on cartons of milk and all that kind of shit.
Yeah, I wonder about that too. And I was gonna look up the stats on that shit, but like I just don't know that like it's less advertised, because that's one of those things too where they changed the name of it, where it used to be kidnapping, now it's like human trafficking. You know what I mean? It's just well, what the fuck are little kids still being human trafficked? Like where are there's dude, what was that Collective Soul song? What the
Whoa!
Runaway Train. It was that. Who was that? That fucking sad ass video of all the kids that went fucking missing.
Runaway Train,
never coming back. Yeah,
that was about trafficking.
That was about kidnapping or fucking kids that go like missing and shit.
There's like a whole bunch of weird songs back in the day. You like sing along. And you're like, oh, this is a great song. And you're like, such a morbid ass.
What's the
like
once there was this boy.
Yeah. I don't know. That song got popular. That was like fucking.
All those songs are trash.
I fucking hated that song.
That's a funny thing though about running away is like. I never heard a good story about it. Like, oh yeah, like my life was going downhill and I ran away and now look at me. I live in this mansion in the hills. It's just like they never come back. They get human trafficked.
I fucking like threatened my parents once I was gonna run away. I forget what it was. Like I got like really butthurt about something. Or
and that's how Eric moved to LA.
Yeah. And I remember like I'm gonna fucking show my parents. And it must have been like 7 or something like that. And I found a stick from my backyard. I had my blanket that I had, and I put it on the ground and then put my clothes in my blanket, like some clothes, and then tied it to the stick,
typical
like a hobo, you know, kind of like thing, and like left it there on the end of my bed. Like I'm gonna show them, like I'm serious, like I fucking got all my shit ready to go on my little stick and clothes.
Pissed me off. Well,
they probably thought it was adorable. They're probably like, oh, look at him, he thinks he's gonna survive.
He's too fat to go.
Yeah. They don't have candy out there just for free, but yeah. So a lot of crazy shit going on now, man. World is fucking crazy. I love learning about everything though. I'm like so intrigued just to learn about, like, being as dumb as I am. It's like the world has so much to offer. Like there's so much that I can learn because I know so little. So I'm just like just trying to absorb as much stuff as I can. And I find like so much stuff like fascinating. Even with like I was trying to say about the whole like cult of Trump thing, not to bring it back to that, but there was a great documentary I watched about it just came out on Netflix, and it was about how to be a cult leader. And it's like 7 episodes, and it goes through like all these cult leaders, like Charles Manson, and it goes through like what he did to get people brainwashed. And then it goes to like the other guy that thought everybody was going to get shot up to Heaven's Gate, and made them drink Kool-Aid and chop their dicks off and shit. Like all this crazy ass shit. And like they do like 6 or 7 of these people, and all of the traits that they all did to like get the people to do what they wanted to do. It's literally like if they would have put Trump in every one of those, we're like, oh, he did like the same shit. He just did it like all together. Like all the same tactics were used by him. Like he like used all the tactics. I'm like watching it. I'm like, oh, when are they going to have Trump at the end of this? Like it's narrated by the guy from Lord of the Rings, the little guy.
Sean Astin from the Goonies?
No, he's a little person. He's a fucking awesome actor. He's got a mustache. I forget his name. He narrates the whole thing.
Lord of the Rings?
No. I said
Game of Thrones?
Game of Thrones. Did I say Lord of the Rings?
Peter Dinklage. Man.
Peter Dinklage.
Yeah, you said
That's
Game of Thrones.
Oh, did I?
Or you said Lord of the Rings.
I don't know. We'll play it back but
Playback.
I'll just dub over what I meant to say in it. But yeah, he narrates the whole thing. But I was like, wow, like this
God.
is. I'm like this. Yeah,
Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew. God. I'm like this is so like spot on. I'm like, oh, like it happened before. It's happening again. It's just like
Well, shit always works though. History repeats itself.
It totally does. But being aware of it while it's happening is like the crazier thing. Like I would much rather be like a fucking idiot just being like, oh, this is what I believe and I just believe this, and like having like be like ignorance would be so blissful right now to just be so fucking stupid to not see
but that's the thing,
actual
like,
things like for what they are.
It's interesting because like I'm a Mac guy now. I switched over to Apple years ago.
Yeah.
I still don't know how to use that shit. It's more user friendly, but like I used to know how to use PCs, and then they came out the Intel processor, and it fucking was like way over my pay grade and shit. And then like for the simplicity of just what it is and what I'm trying to do, a MacBook's fine. The people that like to fucking like, but I'm going to put some extra RAM and do all that kind of hot rodding shit with their computer, that's their thing. But they have a different experience, and that's what the same Android phone users and shit. And so for my simple, what I want to use in life, that's my shit. But that's kind of how I feel about people that have like, you know, the parameters of organized religion where it's just like, I'm just trying to have this experience. I don't want to think too much about this or think too much about this. And I think both of us have people in our family that are just like too like overwhelmed by all the options of what really reality might be or, you know, truths might be.
I think majority of people have never asked any of those questions and never.
But they don't have the desire to. And then that scares them because there is those, you know, the what if and like the wondering and shit is something where it's just like, oh, but that if that's the case, then what about this? And just like, well, who gives a fuck? Just like,
but that to me, I look at that and I'm like, that's exciting.
That is
the
life.
unknown is the most exciting part about life. Like the not knowing is what is like motivating. Being like, whoa, like nobody knows, and admitting that and being like open to that, saying like, wow, like no one really knows what the fuck's going on. We're all like still trying to figure it out. It makes you even feel more of a community and more together. If you all are like, wow, we really don't know, instead of like, I know what it is and I know what it is, and like having nothing to base it off of. Like definitely being ignorant is way easier and way more fun. Like I'm just going to believe my God and go and drink my beer and fucking live a happy life and root for the football team and just be a fucking sheep and do the normal even dumb shit that everybody does all the time.
Doesn't have to be like a religious or political based thing too, but just the simplicity of like not doing a double life of working a day job, pursuing something in the arts afterwards. Like I envy some of our friends back home that just go work their 9 to 5, they get their fucking check, they have a boat and they go boat on the weekends and they have their family and and again, simplified life, enjoyable. I think you can do like.
I don't think there's anything wrong with a simplified life, but not being open to other aspects of life is a discredit to like being alive. Like I have a simple life. Like my life, I work fucking 8 hours a day.
Simple man.
I'm a simple kind of man. You know, just
4 song references this podcast.
Yeah, we're doing them all. But yeah, I mean, in that regard, I have a very simple life. You know, I work my 8 hours. I punch the clock, and then go home, cook dinner, sit with my dog, and then do it all over again 5 days a week. And then one of the days I get to come here, hang out. And then throughout that, but within that like normalcy, which is fine to have.
Well, we
like,
get you fired back up playing music again and stuff. There's like a whole, but you haven't, and that's the thing. I'm surprised you're kind of like those fucking lanterns when you kind of dial down the flame a little bit, but it's still going. Like you have that like creative, that fire inside you that'll never really go away, that some people never really channel. You remember working with the guys when we were painting and just talking about like, hey man, you got any passions? Like, well, I like painting shit and I like killing deer. And it's like, then all of a sudden they start divulging, well, I like taking like nature photos. Why don't you do that? And like, remember fucking trying to push that dude into that. And it was just like this, he didn't believe in himself or really care that much to do it. But there's like, I think everyone has some kind of element of something like to do in a creative sector, but there's that thing where like it's scary, it's taboo in like the Midwest to try to be artistic and shit, and then it's easier just to go in that. And we need people to just to kind of do those jobs and stuff. But like for someone, once you kind of like, as I say, like once like a dog tastes blood or a fucking like that, you can't untaste that shit. There's just like, you get that kind of thing where it's just like, well, that's really life, man. That's really kind of like, once you have that exposure to something that like fulfills you from an artistic perspective, it's really hard to just shut that down.
Well,
if you're doing it for the reason of the art.
And it isn't, because it also, like, it's there for you to go back to whenever you want it. But at the same time, like, I like to learn new things. I like to explore new things and really like try to cram as much stuff as I can in my brain and learn about new things. And the older I get, the more obsessed I am about new things and new ideas and learning about them. And that becomes my new artistic outlet. That becomes my new like drive and thing that I want to learn. And you can't do all the things like at once, or at least I can't. I'm very like a one track mind kind of person. So if I'm into something, I'm into only that. Yeah. And I'm like laser focused on that. And there's so many other things that I want to learn about.
You're like a monogamous with hobbies.
Yeah.
I only have one hobby.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think it's a blessing and a curse, because I mean, at the same time, like, yeah, I could be doing all these things, but I would feel like I would be spreading myself too thin, where like, if I'm interested in something, I want to learn all about it. I want to know like the pros and cons of it. Like what's going on. And like, there's so much more to learn that I don't know. Like I'm more interested right now about learning about life, learning about where I've like this planet that we live on, learning about like what's out in the, in the universe, learning about like what theories there may be of like possibilities of like time travel. And like I watched something last night, this YouTube channel I watched, it's called Cool Worlds. And it's this British a scientist that he has like all these great breakdowns of like, is time travel real? If what are the equations that like people have like come to the table like to prove time travel can be made? How is it literally possible? Okay, like it's literally possible. You need like the energy of like 10 suns to like make it happen, but it's still possible to happen.
What does it even mean? I don't understand that. Like what the fuck does that mean? You need 10 suns to like put in a gas tank of a fucking DeLorean? Like, what are you talking about?
Like the energy mass. So like the amount of energy that a sun contains, you need to like somehow obtain that much energy and
we gotta tie 10 suns together. So, like, what the fuck is that?
I don't know. It's still way over my head, but it's something that blows my mind. I'm like, whoa, they actually figured some of this shit out, but like it's more of an engineering problem than like a mathematical problem. Like they figured out how to make it possible in an equation, but they haven't figured out a way to engineer it into like, make it possible basically.
See, now I wonder if that's like, I think that's again too, you're worried too much about moving the person from time as opposed to the consciousness, right? Like I think if you could somehow just like knock your fucking consciousness out of this current now plane and go back 10 years, whatever, you still have to be you. But
I mean, all that stuff, there's like so many fascinating theories and like information out there of like the possibilities that we as humans have. And the thing that kind of like is interesting about all of them is like, we could have a lot of this shit figured out if we all work together. But because everybody's, and all those things are government funded, like all of the NASA stuff is government funded. Now it's like, there's billionaires that are doing it on their own, but like a lot of really great scientific breakthroughs were all started through government funding, through citizens that are funding the taxes, they pay their taxes and that's money from us. But if we were as like one planet, collectively working on a common goal, like we would have so much shit done. We would have like, we're fucking just spinning our wheels and shooting ourselves in the foot constantly because there's all this other bullshit going on, where if we were just like, let's all just do this, let's like fix this problem or fix this problem, or like we'd be able to like solve so much crazy shit. We'd be able to end like death. We'd be able to like fix dying. Like if everybody in the world was like, this is our goal, but I don't know why that isn't the main goal. Like why hasn't that been like, hey guys,
see, that's where we need the aliens. So when they come, everyone's like, oh my God, we got to team up against them. Just like Independence Day, right? Great Will Smith movie. That is the only way we could actually team up and try to work together. We kind of saw a little bit of that with COVID and shit. And that's what I was saying. Like, why didn't, like, once you had that kind of focused energy of like the masses, well, why didn't we just kind of, all right, now that we fixed COVID, let's fix this plastic problem. Let's make cars run off of fucking plastic that's recycled. Like, why are we not doing that? We're just kind of like, all right, well, everyone back to your corners and fucking like hate each other
Yeah.
from a distance and you know, try to fucking get one over and invade Ukraine and do all this weird shit and, you know, fucking have the finger constantly above the nuclear button. It's just like, we're just too far gone, man.
I think if you had like an alien attack on the planet or like something threatening like the world and not just like threatening America or threatening China or Russia or whatever it is, and like you forced everyone to be like, all right, like if we don't all like, you have to work together as a world, else your
Dude,
world doesn't
If
exist.
the aliens are trying to fuck with the U.S., I guarantee you, it'd be funny as hell to see Putin be like, yes, the U.S. is terrible people, blow them up. Like this fucking, who would get on their back like, yeah, we've always hated them. We love you, aliens. Fucking, like, because I feel like if it was another country, if it was any other country, the U.S. would be like, well, we got to get over them. We got to tell them that the fuck, you don't come to our fucking planet. Like we would go with the attacking country because that's just who we are. We're like, as much as I think we can be like the, you know, Team America World Police bully in a scenario, we also typically, especially if there's oil involved, don't let someone get fucking fucked with.
Yeah. I mean,
I would watch the aliens try to attack a sand country with oil. We'd be all up in that shit. Like, whoa, 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 whoa. Where do you think you're going? Well, it's our fucking OPEC nation.
yeah, I don't know. That or like just have a big fucking asteroid like hit a part of the earth where it like just takes out like the majority of the world and then just start over again. But like,
You don't even need that, man. You need a good fucking solar flare or like a pole reversal or the fucking planet just slowly stops spinning and starts spinning the other way. Because that's happened in history and shit. Like when you start looking at those type of things, we're like, how does that even happen? And what are the telltale signs? Like, is it when the ocean heats up to 102 degrees like it is currently? Like, because there's a whole bunch of volatile shit going on with climate wise.
that happened in the past before. There was a meteor that hit and it took out that's when like humans existed and stuff.
Oh, the mini ice age?
Yeah, and it was
Napoleon was around.
There was only like 3,000 people I think left. Like we were down as a human species to like 3,000 people. And that was like I think it was in Africa where like they only survived there. That's why everyone is like from Africa that's like that's on the planet today. It was down to like 3,000. So we were like hanging on by a fucking thread of like just being extinct and like not being humans on the planet anymore. And the planet just living its best life without us.
That Noah built that ark.
Yeah. But it's like it happened before and it's like they find craters all over the world like even more so with radar and stuff of like that are in the ocean that were like detrimental to like, we don't know when exactly they happened, but like were catastrophic to the world. So it's like, we have all these like crater, you know, marks all over the world from like the millions and millions of years. And, you know, it can happen at like any time again.
I think it's funny that there's like the majority of the world just thinks that like that Morgan Freeman movie, like Surface, wherever it is, that we're going to just blast the fucking asteroid out. Like we had that capability. Like there's no way in fuck we would be able to do an Armageddon and send Bruce Willis up there with some miners and shit to try to fuck. Like it just
they said that they have like they could do that to like a certain size, but they said like the more dangerous ones are the smaller ones because they're harder to detect. So like the larger one that you see coming and it's like, oh, it's coming and whatever, like you can see that and they could like send a bunch of like all the nuclear bombs in the world like to it or whatever and blow it up. But like the smaller ones that are like, you know, the size of like, I don't know, like a small town or something, that one they can't see as fast, or maybe they're even smaller than that. But like those are the harder ones and those are the ones that could really fuck us up. But like, even that being said, like, you know that that's a possibility and that's something that could happen. So why don't all the world leaders be like, hey, this is a thing that could just end all of whatever we're doing. So why don't we all just team up and figure this shit out? Because at any second or any time, like this could end us. So like, let's focus on that until we figure that out. Then move on to the next thing. It's just like, people are so
because
fucking
there's always
stupid.
some asshole that would try to hack into that and then like turn all those lasers or whatever the fuck it is at somebody else. You know what I mean? Like
that's why I stay home. I don't fucking go out ever. I just fucking cook at home.
But you're missing out though. That's the whole thing. Is like this it's a fucking it is a giant Titanic and we are just the band playing on it. And I'm part of the band where you're like, you realize you're not getting a lifeboat, so you're just going back and having a drink at the bar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like pretty much. I'm just like, what? But I don't know. It's just like I said, ignorance is definitely bliss. And like when I go out, a lot of the times, not all the time, like hanging around a lot of comics and stuff, and people that like ask themselves questions and kind of see the world in a more literal way, you know, those people I feel are like easier to have conversation with. But like the regular average Joe or whatever is just like, oh man, it's just like, what are you like? You didn't even like thought of anything. Like you're just a fucking dumbass just walking like, through life like with and I'm jealous of that actually. Like I'm just like, man, I can't go back now. Like you're out of the Pandora's box has been open. It can't get put back in there, man.
Yeah. You've shown how dumb you are.
Yeah. It's just like now you just have to live with this burden of like wanting to know more about who we are and where we came from and why we're here. And it's just like, oh man, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I think there's like there's just too much of anything. You know what I mean? Like, I don't go to a restaurant. I'm like, is this organic? How was this chicken raised? Like, it just doesn't matter. Does it taste good?
Yeah.
Does it fill you up? Is it fit in your price parameters? Like, how much do you really want to know? How much behind the curtain do you want to see?
Right.
And then there's the other part too with like the, because you and I always talk about this, how you'd like to live for like 1,000 years and shit. And I'm like, I'm down to be out in like 2. Like I'm not trying to fucking like set a world record for oldest man or anything like that, because I think as much as I enjoy being alive, there's also the curiosity like, but what is afterwards? And I think my biggest fear would be coming back again and waking up anew. Like
the only way I would want to like die early is if I found out all the answers to the questions that I had on this life, and then be like, what's next? Like I checked the boxes of all those questions that I had. I'm like, oh, that's how we were created, or this is why this happened. And that's, all that stuff. Is time travel possible? The aliens exist? Like, where's the end of the universe? Like all that shit. I want to know all that shit. And that's my only reason to live forever or 100,000 years.
Okay, but here's the thing. So again, we've had this theoretical conversation before about like, hey man, wake up. Like we're back on our job site, like 15 years ago. Like how much that would be like, oh my God, I have to live that all over again.
Yeah.
Right. And if, we're talking about time travel, and then I was saying, if you just kind of remove your consciousness and put it back into a younger version of yourself, like if that was possible, you could take the 41-year-old version of yourself and reset back to being like the portly 6-year-old kid you were. Would you take that option and go back and have to go through all this thing again?
Knowing what I know now?
Exactly what you know now. Granted, your decisions would probably change where you're at as far as now goes.
Yeah.
So this wouldn't be you, but like, would you take that?
Yeah. I mean, I probably would. I would. Yeah. Because I would be able to like.
I thought we were friends.
I would. Why not? Like you'd be able to like do everything better. And like,
but it wouldn't
write
be the
down
same,
a few
though,
lottery numbers. Like, all right, just memorize these fucking numbers.
You'd just be putting like fucking locker combination numbers. Like, why am I not winning?
No, I would definitely do that. I think there'll be a point where like, if we are still alive as a species in 1,000 years, that immortality will be it'll be an option. It'll be like, you want to die or you want to live forever? Like, I don't know. It'll be an option. Like, it just will.
How though? I mean, we can't even feed the population on this current planet, and we keep adding people's life.
The same reason why, like, 100 years ago, people were like, we'll never get to the moon. We'll never have like be in space. And then they did that. The and then, yeah. And then, like, we'll never be able to fly, like all that shit was like looked as like an impossibility. And then it just became possible. And the same thing with, anything else that we can imagine, we can do it. That's all we do.
That's
like,
fucking crazy.
That's what like humans do, is we just create shit. That's the only reason we're here. We're just like little bugs that just keep creating shit and create more shit and create more shit. That's all we do.
Yeah.
We just keep creating. So that's like our purpose as a species, is to create. And so eventually it's going to get to the point where we can create anything. That's what our specialty is, making shit.
I wonder, you're talking about the population of the world being like 9 billion, or it's approaching 9 billion. I think it's 8 right now. But like, you don't really see that. I was talking to this guy the other day, and he said that when he was a kid, around maybe 20 and shit, he remembers it being approaching 3 billion. So in his lifetime, he's seen it like since triple, right? Which is fucking nuts to think about, the population of the world tripling in the time that you've been alive.
Yeah.
But the crazier thing is like, why haven't like shark attacks or lightning strikes tripled in that time? You know what I'm saying? Like, there should statistically, stats should be fucking through the roof, because you look at it and it's like,
well, that's only if sharks keep growing too, though. And now
there's that
they're
many
on a
more people
they're
in like
definitely on a
things like
decline, though.
there's I mean, it just seems interesting that there's not like 3 times as many people at the Louvre when you go visit France and shit. Like there should be like just this abundance of things. And then are these people just staying at like what the fuck where are these people?
I bet you people that grew up in LA are like, there's definitely fucking more people now.
For sure, for sure.
Like,
I mean, I can see that in the
that.
20 years I've been on here. But
I think we're wrapping it up here. Yeah, we're out of time. I wanted to promote a friend of mine. Her name is Ivy Sanford. She is my hairstylist. I just didn't know her last name. I always just call her Ivy. So, but if you want oh man, hold on.
We do that read, man. If you want
if you want a great haircut, a good mullet cut, reach her at 760-533-5798 or at Sheer Ivy on Instagram. She'll give you the best haircut ever. I've been going to her forever. She always hooks my mullet up. She's the best mullet cutter in town. So go to her.
best mulleteer.
Best mulleteer. Also, if you are looking to buy any of the Eric and Tony apparel, you can go to Adventure Dumb, which is what this shirt is. You can go to adventuredumb.com. There is an Eric and Tony link. It has beer mugs, t-shirts, sweatshirts, all that kind of stuff on there, unisex shirts. So check that out if you want to help support the channel. You can also go to Spotify to listen to this. Go to the YouTube channel to watch the full podcast of this. Our Instagram, the Eric and Tony Show, for TikTok, all that stuff. Around all that stuff, we do 1-minute clips every single day. So there's new content every single day that we're shooting out. For my personal page, it's under Eric Rustler. For Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all that stuff too. Help support the channel. Buy something. I'm the only person that bought one of these fucking shirts, and I need some help. All right, got rent to pay. So show your support. Buy a shirt, Adventure Dumb shirt, Eric and Tony Show shirt, and that is me. Thank you again for watching. Tony Klein,
yes.
Where can we find you, buddy?
At Tony Klein Comedian on Instagram and my website, TonyKleinComedian.com. I will be at the West Side Comedy Theater tonight, which you're not going to be able to know about that. I am at the Ha Ha Comedy Club in North Hollywood next Friday. And over here at Petty Cash, that's Sunday. I don't know the dates on those, but I'm out in the streets doing stand-up. And on the nights that I'm not, you might see me at Chili's raising my kid. So that's what I do. Thanks for all the support. Eric, thank you so much for doing all your fucking work on the back end. I know he said he just goes home and hangs out with his dog, but he does all the editing and posting for our show. We love doing this, so please tell your friends if you like hearing two guys from the Midwest talk about nonsense. Next week, we have a really great guest. I'm excited to have on another comic friend of mine, Fatima Talia, so look forward to that. Otherwise, thank you for stopping by.
See you on the next one. Peace.